class has to do with the 5-paragraph essay. Okay, let's write this down. The 5-paragraph essay class is a format. I know that some of you have studied formats. You may have studied the APA format for research papers. Some of you may have studied the MLA format. Okay, there's different formats. There's a Chicago format, a composition you already studied in English. I think in English 3, you studied the composition, which is a format. And in English 4, you began the study of the 5-paragraph essay. It is a format class. Always remember that. Okie doke. Now, what do we have about the 5-paragraph essay that makes it special? Well, class, it is a format. When we talk about a format, we are talking about a structure. So if this 5-paragraph essay is a writing format, then it must have some kind of structure, all right? And so what is the structure, class? All right, that's what we're going to analyze at. Let's look at the structure of the 5-paragraph essay, and we're going to begin with, let me see, we're going to begin with getting this right. We're going to begin with the introductory. Oh, terrible. ¿Por qué escribe tan mal esto? Introductory paragraph. Okay? We begin that. The introductory paragraph, that's the first one, and it's a paragraph and it goes in the beginning. After that, we follow up with the body paragraph. Okay, body paragraph number 1. The next paragraph, the 3rd paragraph, is the body paragraph number 2. And the next one is the body paragraph number 3. And the last paragraph of the 5-paragraph essay is what we call the concluding paragraph. Concluding paragraph. Okay? So if we were to enumerate this, we would say the first paragraph is this one. The second paragraph is this one. The 3rd paragraph is this one. The 4th paragraph is this one. And the 5th paragraph is this one. And we have 5 paragraphs. And so we have followed the format of the 5-paragraph essay. Yes or no? Almost. Because there's more. There's more to this. Now, the introductory paragraph, some of your teachers call the introductory paragraph, they have another name for it. They call it simply the introduction. Okay, so we're going to give it that second name, introduction. And some of your teachers call the concluding paragraph simply the conclusion, right? I don't know what teacher you had in English 4, but some of them call it concluding paragraph and some of them call it conclusion. Okay. Now, why don't I like to say introduction? Because some students think that an introduction can have 1, 2, or 3 paragraphs. And some students think that a conclusion can have 1, 2, or 3 paragraphs. And I tell them, no. An introduction is only 1 paragraph. And that's why the correct name is introductory paragraph. If you look at them, they are all paragraphs. Paragraph, 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 and we have five paragraphs. All right, class? So that is, in general, just talking about the number of paragraphs. If you write an essay that only has 4 paragraphs, that's a big mistake, a very big mistake. And you're going to receive a lower score, considerably a lower score, if you write only 4. If you forget the conclusion, you're going to lose a lot of points. If you only write 2 body paragraphs, you're going to use a lot of points, because the format is the 5 paragraph essay. You must follow the format. You must follow the format, because that is what we use to write this, okay? All right, now, something that I want to say about these five paragraphs, okay? If you look at it, we could say, let's go over here. Whoops, no, not red. Let's continue with black. 1 second. We could say that there are 3, now I'm going to say 3 types, okay? I'm talking about types, not number. There are 3 types of paragraphs. In a 5, qué odioso que es escribir tan lento. In a 5 paragraph essay. Okay, there's 3 types. That means that there's 3 different organizations. Okay, the first type of paragraph, guacala. The first type of paragraph is what we call the introduction. Okay, the introduction is different from the other organization of the other paragraphs. Okay, so what do we have in an introduction? Well, first we have the famous hook. Okay, what is the hook? All right, depends on the topic, but we could ask a question. Okay, where were you? ¿Dónde estaban ustedes? Where were you September 30th? ¿Dónde estaban ustedes Septiembre 30? In the year, ¿qué años que fueron que la policía hizo huelga y hubo relajo en todo el país? Sé que fue un septiembre 30 y sé que Rafa estaba de presidente todavía. No sé, 2014, 2010. 2000?
2010.
2010. Entonces yo puedo empezar con una pregunta así. Ese puede ser mi gancho. ¿A dónde estaban ustedes aquel septiembre 30 fatídico del año 2010? ¿Ok? Y ahí contesta, Mister, no le puedo decir porque eso iría, me podría incriminar yo mismo. Estaba visitando tía, digamos. All right? So that's a hook can be a question. A hook can be a statistic, puede ser una estadística. Puede ser 2 estadísticas, pueden ser 2 preguntas, no más de 2, ni no más de 2 estadísticas. Por ejemplo, puede ser 9 out of 10 Ecuadorians have suffered some type of crime. 9 de cada 10 ecuatorianos han sufrido algún tipo de crimen, ¿ok? Esa es una estadística. Obviamente mi tema va a ser algo con la ola delictiva que estamos viviendo ahora en el país, right? Ese es un tipo de gancho. O puedo combinar una pregunta. Did you know, sabía? Did you know that 3 out of 4 Ecuadorian men are unfaithful to their girlfriends. ¿Sabían que 3 de 4 enamorados son infieles a sus enamoradas ecuatorianas? Terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay, that's a hook. Puede ser un pensamiento. Puede decir el gran, ¿cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se llama el técnico el presidente de Barcelona?
Alfaro Moreno.
El gran Alfaro Moreno dijo este año: estaremos celebrando Copa Libertadora con toda nuestra hinchada a fin de año. Palabras proféticas. All right? Ese puede ser un gancho para empezar, no sé, algún tema. So you have to have a hook in the introduction. And after you have the hook class, you need to have the transition sentences. Okay? What does this mean? Esto un poquito no claro muchas veces a los alumnos. ¿Qué es esto del? Pero piensen, están usando un gancho como estadística, como una pregunta, como una anécdota. Una anécdota podría ser aquel día, aquel domingo, Jaime salía como de costumbre a comprar el pan para el desayuno. Pues su familia pasaban juntos los domingos, sin saber que esta sería su última vez, ya que caería víctima mortal a la AMPA en Guayaquil. Punto. Entonces, esa es una anécdota de yo necesito. Obviamente voy a hablar, todavía no sé qué voy a decir del crimen, ni qué es mi propuesta, pero es obvio que es con ese tema. Entonces, tengo que conectar eso a lo que va a ser mi thesis statement. Entonces, puse ese gancho, ¿verdad? Y pongo como transición. Digo, muchos ecuatorianos ahora viven en este miedo. El miedo de no saber si mañana estarán vivos o estarán muertos. ¿Okay? La ola delictiva que va incrementando en el país ha dejado cientos de víctimas y un miedo psicológico que cada vez crece. Entonces, todo eso es transición, ¿sí ven? Todo eso fue transición y de ahí empiezo con mi thesis statement. Para combatir este problema social, solo nos quedan 3 soluciones. 1, 2 y 3. Eso es el transition device. ¿Ok? Algunos ignoran eso y se saltan directamente así. And the third thing that we have, class, is, of course, the very important, very, very important, the thesis statement, el corazón de todo buen ensayo, no de cualquier ensayo, sino de buen ensayo. The thesis okay. These 3 parts, class, are inside the introductory paragraph. Okay, these 3 parts are inside the introductory paragraph. Now, one second. Okay. What is the organization or the structure of the 3 body paragraphs? Well, each of them have the same structure. We can say that they are parallel structures because they repeat in each one. So let's write this here. The body paragraphs. And what do the body paragraphs are? All the body paragraphs have a topic sentence. No se acuerdan. Tienen que hacer memoria. Eso busquen en internet. Topic sentence. That's your first sentence. Your first sentence of your body paragraph. And then it's going to have more or less, 3 supporting sentences. 3 supporting sentences, okay? By support, they present evidence. They present examples, or they present a logical deduction or a logical way of thinking that takes you to that conclusion, all right? But they present something. So let's say, what do they contain? They have examples, all right? They may have statistics, right, class? They may have statistics. They may present the development, el desarrollo de algún argumento. No incluye todo, pero puede incluir uno de estos 3 o una combinación. Development of an argument. Solo voy a escribir así, no le voy a poner el artículo. Of argument. En vez de poner development of an argument. All right? Those are the body paragraphs. Okay? So, we're missing one more. I'm going to put the letter C, but we're going to continue in the other one, pero lo voy a poner aquí para que se pueda ver alguna, ¿cómo se llama? Continuidad, okay? The next one is the conclusion, and we're going to look at what the conclusion has. All right, so let's open up a new slide. Let me put this like this, the conclusion. Let's go with a new one. And over here, we're going to write again 3. Oh. 3. The conclusion. What does the conclusion have? Well, esto debería ser C. I'm sorry. Y el otro lado también puse mal, entonces. Ya regresamos. C. The conclusion, all right? What does the conclusion have? Well, the conclusion first has a reference to the thesis statement. To the thesis statement, okay? It has a reference to the thesis statement. And it also has a small analysis. And we're going to be looking at examples, so don't worry. Analysis of the thesis statement, right? And then finally, it has a call to action. That should always be one of the last elements of a conclusion. And then maybe, if you want, let's put 4 and let's write the word, let's put this in red. Optional. Esto se llama el reverse hook. Y en esto ponen un pensamiento para terminar su conclusión. Así, ¿cómo, mister? ¿Cómo es eso? Bueno, pueden poner y decir al último, como dijo Confucio, no comer el arroz si gorgojos tiene. Me inventé eso, no sé, un pensamiento, algo que cierre bien con una brocha de oro su trabajo. ¿Sí ven? Entonces, eso es opcional, es agregarle, vamos a poner aquí, un pensamiento. ¿Cómo se dice pensamiento? A quote de algún famoso autor o alguna autoridad sobre el tema que ustedes están escribiendo. Eso es opcional. Si les tienen en la mente, si tienen algo chévere, lo agregan y se ve más bonito. Llamado a la acción. ¿Qué es una llamada a la acción? Imagínense que mi ensayo fue lo que ustedes hablaron cuando hicieron el review del restaurante, ¿se acuerdan? Y entonces mi llamada a la acción es, al final, finalizar todo esto, es, entonces la próxima vez que ustedes tengan hambre y no tengan mucho billete, ya saben a dónde tienen que ir. Kentucky Fried Chicken, el mejor pollo a un costo bajo y con un servicio, iba a decir un servicio excelente, pero realmente es mediocre, con un servicio pasable. ¿Ok? Entonces, ese es mi llamado a la acción. Vayan a comer a Kentucky. Otro llamado a la acción. Entonces, la próxima vez que estén dentro de esa urna de votación, con la pluma en su mano, listo para cruzar para el candidato, para su candidato a la presidencia, piense bien todo lo que ha pasado y escoja. ¿Ok? Algo así. Y de ahí, por ejemplo, si fue de restaurante, yo acabaría con un pensamiento. Como dijo Tres Patines, eh, estómago contento, persona contento. No sé si lo dijo eso, pero algo así. All right, class. So that's your conclusion. It has a structure. And that's what I wanted to point out, right? Now, another topic. A lot of students ask me the question, teacher, how many words? Other students ask me, teacher, how many sentences? Barriga llena, corazón contento. Thank you, Giseline. Very good. Very good. Así es. Ok. Se recuerden, señoritas, si alguna vez tienen un desliz con algún chico y se sienten la necesidad de confesarles esto a sus enamorados, a sus esposos, prepárenle un super plato, el plato favorito, ¿ok? Y si toma, cómprele una cerveza, pero con bajo alcohol, porque no vale que esté muy borracho, ¿right? Una cervecita, póngale la película con su actriz favorita, y ahí le dice, mi amor, ¿sabes qué? ¿Te acuerdas la vez que te fuiste a Manta y se quedó Roberto, que tú dijiste que me cuide? Bueno, me cuidó más de lo que se requería. Y ya está. ¿Sí? All right, class. Y ahí recuerden. Barriga llena, corazón contento. Perfect. All right, class. So a lot of students say, teacher, how many words? How many words? That's very hard, class, to say how many words. I can tell you between 300 and 350. I can say minimum 300. I can say minimum 300, maximum 400. But the reality is that I will always tell my students what is necessary to convince me. That is the words that you need. Lo que sea necesario para convencer al lector. No more, para no aburrirlo y no ser redundante. And no less, para que no le dé chance para pensar profundamente de lo que ustedes están proponiendo, de su opinión. All right? So let's analyze this. How many, I don't want to say how many words, let's talk about sentences, all right? So if we have an introduction class. Whoops. Let's look at the introduction. And we're looking at number of sentences, all right? The introduction, from what I said, has a hook correct, class? It has a hook and it has a transition and it has the thesis. So if I calculate, I say, well, my hook, how many sentences could it have? It might have 2 sentences, maybe, might have 1. All right. And my transition, well, my transition should definitely have 2 sentences, definitely. All right. And my thesis statement, well, my thesis statement, as you will see, is only 1 sentence. But that is a compound sentence, which will also go be statement seen in a second. 1 sentence. So these are minimums, class, minimums, right? So you have 2 plus 2 plus 1, you will have 5 sentences, minimum. All right, 5 sentences, minimum. Right? And then we look at the body, which is the more extensive one. Right? So in the body, you begin with having the topic sentence. That's the first one. So the topic sentence, topic sentence is always 1. 1 sentence, hay 3 párrafos de cuerpo, son 3 oraciones. 3 sentences. All right? And then you have the supporting sentences. Y deberían haber 3 oraciones. No sé por qué empezó a escribir así. Supporting sentences, deberían haber 3 por párrafo, y son 3 párrafos, 9 sentences. So minimum, class, minimum, you should have 12 sentences. Again, I'm going to write the word, ¿qué pasó? Minimum, no sé por qué yo escribo bien y esto escribe raro. Minimum, that's important, minimum, right? And then the conclusion, class, is even easier. In the conclusion, you have a reference to the thesis statement. So that's usually about 2 sentences. Analysis of the thesis statement, that's 3, that's 1 more, 3 sentences. Call to action, that's 4 sentences. So minimum here, minimum, you should have 4 sentences. 4 sentences, minimum. Okie doke. How much do we have in total? We have 5 plus 12, 17 plus 4, 21. 21 sentences. Is the total. And that means that if you write 25 sentences, you are giving your minimum effort. And what will you receive for your minimum minimum effort? You will receive a minimum Passing grade. A ver, vamos a explicar esto. Todos tenemos ideas, una idea de cuánto puede costar un carro. Vamos los carros que son los carros medianos en precio, ¿ok? Con un precio aproximado de $20,000. Ustedes compran un carro que tiene ventanas eléctricas, tiene aire acondicionado, pero no tiene los, ¿cómo se llama esto? Los espejos no son motorizados, tiene que moverlo con su mano. ¿Ok? El equipo de música que viene no es el equipo del auto, es un equipo, un Sony, puede ser un buen equipo, un Sony, un Panasonic, etcétera, pero no es el equipo original. No viene con terminados, los asientos vienen en tela en vez de venir en cuero. ¿Ok? Entonces tenemos básicamente dos modelos del mismo auto, ¿verdad? O dos versiones del mismo modelo. Mismo auto, mismo motor, pero el uno tiene cositas mejores. El de 20,000, las llantas son muy buenas, pero el de 23,000, que es la próxima versión, la versión elegante, ese tiene llantas con aros más grandes y llantas más caras. Entonces, ¿qué esperamos nosotros? Bueno, si yo pago por la versión más barata, estoy dando una cantidad menor a la máxima, voy a recibir menor, pues. Si yo ofrezco al mercado un carro menor a otro, me van a dar una cantidad mínima que puede valer ese carro. Si les ofrezco un carro con más opciones, me van a dar más dinero. Lo mismo pasa con el ensayo, ¿ok? Muchos alumnos siguen estos parámetros de semestre. Yo hice, como usted dijo, las 5 oraciones, pero por eso ahora le estoy resaltando mínimo, ¿ok? Eso es el mínimo esfuerzo y será la mínima nota. La mínima nota para pasar, se ha cumplido con todo, es 60. Ahora, hay otras cosas, no es tan simple como eso. Podría ser que las oraciones son extraordinariamente bien construidas, podría ser que tiene los ejemplos PEPA, que la organización es excelente. Hay mucho más, mucho más. Pero como una regla así general, mínimo esfuerzo, mínima nota. Si entregan menos, no good class, porque ahí empieza algo no muy bueno, ¿verdad? Empiezan a perder puntos, porque no han cumplido con lo mismo. Ok, vamos a seguir, pero antes de seguir, preguntas. Any questions a lo que he enseñado hasta ahora? Any questions? Something that's not clear? Demasiado silencio. All right. Okay, let's continue then. No questions? Let's continue. Let's go over to a new one. All right, so you've seen all this format. Now you know the format, you know the internal structure. Let's also mention something that's equally necessary. The type of essay that you're going to be writing, the type of essay in English 5. Type of essay in English 5. And the type of essay in English 5 is what we call the persuasive essay, okay? We have different types of essays. You have different types of writing, right? You have the composition, you have the 5-paragraph, but in the 5-paragraph essay, we have different types of 5-paragraph essays. We have expository, where you talk about one topic, not an opinion. You're only talking about the topic you're describing. It's like a descriptive essay. In another one, you can tell a story. That's a narrative, narración. You're narrating an event, you're narrating a story, etc. That's narration. Another type of essay is a cause and effect, all right, where you identify one cause and three effects of that cause, all right? You also have, what is this? Contrast and compare. You compare, for example, socialism to capitalism, all right? And you talk about each difference and similarity of the systems. That is called a comparative essay, all right? So we have different types of essays, but in English 5 class, in English 5, what type of essay do we use? A persuasive essay. We do not use any other type of essay. We use a persuasive essay, and that's important for you to remember as you write your essay. It's persuasive. You are trying to convince me of your side, only one side. You don't want to do argumentative, all right? Because sometimes in argumentative writing, you also present the other side. You analyze the other option, all right? But we do not do that in persuasive. In persuasive, we only talk about one side, our opinion, what we're trying to convince. Okay, so I hope you understand that, class. I hope you remember that. And now let's take a look at what elements will be graded. How do you get your grade? Well, obviously, one of the things that you will be getting a grade for is in the format, all right? And I already explained all that. I'm not going to explain it, obviously. I'm not going to explain it again, but now let's look at other things, right? You are going to be evaluated. Let's write this here. Right? You're going to be evaluated, class. Okay. On the level of vocabulary, level of vocabulary that you have in the essay. What does this mean? Okay, if you think we're doing persuasive, what kind of vocabulary do I want present? Well, I will want definitely strong adjectives, adjetivos fuertes. Y hemos aprendido bastante, aprendimos bastante de estos adjetivos al principio, pero definitivamente no son todos. So you want to learn, you want to use a lot of strong, you don't want to say nice, you want to say beautiful, you want to say breathtaking, you want to say awesome, you want to say fantastic, not nice. Okay, and if you want to describe something negative, you're not going to say terrible or bad, you're going to say awful, heartbreaking, devastating. Barcelona's loss to Emelec was devastating to Barcelonista fans all over Ecuador. All right. You want strong adjectives because you're writing persuasive. You don't want anything soft, whether they're positive or negative, whatever, depending on what you're saying. Okay. And the nouns that you use, class, the nouns, you want what we call higher level synonyms, all right, which are words. And in this case, really, I'm talking about nouns, all right? Higher word nouns, class. Okay, for example, you do not want to say boys, pero eran chicos, eran niños. No, but you don't want to say boys. You have to analyze and say, well, ¿cuántos años tenían? Maybe a better word would be to say adolescent. All right. They found 3 adolescents sleeping in an abandoned car. En vez de decir, they found 3 boys sleeping in it. 3 adolescents, un poquito más descriptivo, más exacto, un nivel más alto. All right. And maybe instead of saying car, all right, because everybody says car, you might want to use the word automobile, which is a nice synonym, but it's less common, and it sounds more elegant, more formal, right? So that's about the level of vocabulary. That's what we want. We want strong adjectives, and we want nice higher level synonyms. The same thing with the verbs. We don't want phrasal verbs. We want better verbs, action verbs. Okay, not said all the time. Commented, thought, believed, planned, suggested, etc. Another aspect that we measure. Well, whoops, let's erase that. Let's go back to green. Another aspect that we measure, number 2, is the use of structures. Now this means 2 things. Give me a second. Let me just write it. Use of structures, underline it. Okay. What do we mean by the use of structures? Well, first, we refer to the grammar itself. Okay. The proper use of tenses, que todos los tiempos estén correctamente utilizados. The proper use of tenses. Okay. The second thing when we talk about the use of structures, really it's grammar, what I'm going to say, but we call them the proper use of phrases. What kind of phrases? Time phrases. Last week, last year, next year, during winter, before Christmas, after Christmas. All right. Prepositional phrases: on the table, under the table, next to the table, at Policentro or in Policentro or on Policentro. Which is the correct one? So all that falls under the categories of the correct use of phrases, which basically refers to prepositions, the use of prepositions and nouns. Let's write this down. Prepositions and nouns. Okay. All right, give me a second. Whoops, that looks horrible. Prepositions and nouns. All right. Let me see. Okay. And then the third thing that we're going to measure in this is what we call the complexity of the sentence. So let's write this down. And then I'm going to explain. The complexity of the sentences. Complexity of sentences. Okay. Sentences can be of 3 types. They can be simple sentences. Okay. They can be compound sentences, or they can be complex sentences. So those are the 3: simple, compound, Uy, ese complex se ve horrible. ¿Qué es eso? Vamos a borrar. Let's reset. Right, here we go. Let's write it again. Lo estoy escribiendo, no entiendo. Y la X ya está más atrás, pero me aparece más adelante. Complex. Okay. And we will be looking at that in a second. So again, when I talk about use of structures, I am talking about, right, the proper use of a tense, the correct use of prepositions and nouns in time phrases, in prepositional phrases, in phrases of any type, really. And the next aspect is complexity of sentence, which we're going to be looking at in a second. Class, I want to check something here in my house. Give me a moment. Let me put this mute. Le voy a dar, no, un minuto. Solo quiero revisar algo aquí en mi casa. Un momento. Sorry, class. It was one of my cats. All right. Okay. Let's see. So let's continue, class. Any questions up to now? Anybody? Questions of any type? No? All right, hold on. Something's wrong here. Give me a second. Okay. Something's missing. Well, not important. All righty, let's continue. Let's look what I mean by complexity of sentences, what I mean by simple, compound, and complex. So let's open up another slide. Here we go. And we're going to now talk about complexity of sentences. Okay, so let's write this here. Types of sentences. As far as complexity, there are 3 types of sentences in the English language, all right? The first sentence is what we call the simple sentence. And we're going to look at an example, and then you will understand what a simple sentence means, all right? So let's see. Last week, comma, my brother and I had to travel to New York City. All right, so there's the sentence. Now, let's see, why would we call this a simple sentence? Well, let's see. What is the subject of this sentence? The subject of this sentence is my brother and I. So let's do this like this, my brother and I. And we're going to call that the subject. And what is the verb? Had to travel. And we're going to call that the verb. In other words, a simple sentence is any sentence that has one subject and one verb. Okay. The other things, the complements, that's not important to New York City, last week. It can have it, you can have more, you can have less. That's not the important thing. The important thing is you have one subject and one principal verb. All right. That's what makes it simple. Let me give you another example of a simple sentence. She should have told her family all the truth. She should have told her family all the truth. Well, again, we have one subject, and in this case, it's just a pronoun, she. Let's write S here. That's a subject. And we have one verb, should have told. That's the action. Debí haberles dicho. And the rest, class, the rest is just a complement. Nothing else, just a complement. Okay? Okie doke. Two examples of simple sentences. They can be very short. For example, I love you. That's a very short, simple sentence. I love you. Very short. Okay? But simple sentences are not always short. They can be very long, but they can still be a simple sentence. All right? They can have a lot of adjectives or maybe a lot of prepositional phrases, etc. Then I want you to contrast this simple sentence with a compound sentence. All right, let's write that down. Compound sentence. Ojo con esto. Este es este es el tipo de oración que mayormente debería aparecer en el ensayo de un alumno de inglés 5. Okay? Compound sentence. What is a compound sentence? Well, let's look at an example. All right, so, Steve and Irina weren't able to buy the house because the bank not the back. The bank rechazó, rejected their loan application. No les aceptó. Por ende, no le dio el préstamo. All right? Rejected their loan application. All right, let's see. Let's analyze now the subject. So in this case, we have Steve and Irina. There we go. That's the subject. And what's the verb of that subject? Well, it's weren't able to buy. No pudieron comprar la casa. Weren't able to buy the house. That's the verb. So they weren't able to buy the house. But now we have a word here, right? Because. This is a conjunction, right? That means we're going to have another sentence, a second sentence. Here we have the bank, right? And the bank is also a subject. And what did the bank do? The bank rejected their loan application. So that's a verb. So basically we have two subjects, subject one and subject two. And we have two verbs and they correspond to each other. Verb one is with subject one. And verb two is with subject two, right? This is a compound sentence. A compound sentence has two subjects and two verbs. And they are usually joined, connected, related with some kind of word like because, like unless, or but, or if. There's a whole different bunch of compound of connectors, conjunctions that we could use for joining these compound sentences. So this is a compound sentence, class. If you give me $100, I'll paint the house for you. Okay, so what do we have here? Subject, you. Action, give. Subject one, verb one. I'll paint. Subject, I. And this is subject two. And will paint, verb two. Okay. And what is the word that acts like similar to because? If. All right. Those are compound sentences. And in essays, we expect that students from English 5 will have a very large number of compound sentences. So when I say minimum 1 or 5 sentences, I am talking about compound sentences. I am not talking about simple sentences, right? They tend to have more words, but not always, but usually. All right. And the last one, the last type, let's go over here. The last type of sentence is the complex sentence. All right. And again, we should look at an example. Let me see the example that I gave the other parallel. Give me a moment. It was, what was it? Where are they? Okay, good. Let's go with this one. I'll make another one, a similar one. All right. Two years ago, Carla and her husband bought an iMac. Si alguien no sabe lo que es un iMac es una computadora de mesa que hace la empresa Apple. Okay, se llama iMac. 2 years ago, Carla and her husband bought an iMac because they both studied graphic design at ESPOL, right? They both design graphic design at ESPOL. And necesitaban a more powerful machine. Una máquina más poderosa. All right, let's take a look. Now you see, complex sentences are usually very long, but not always. Let's identify the subject. 2 years ago, Carla and her husband. So there goes number one. Carla and her husband. Subject one. What did they do? They bought. So that's the action. Verb one. They bought an iMac because that's a connector. So let's label it as such. Because. They, that's another subject. They both. Well, they both is a subject, all right? And that is subject two. They both did what? They both studied graphic design at ESPOL. So that is verb two. And needed a more powerful machine. Needed. Well, needed is a verb, and it's the third verb. So I want to say verb three. But where is subject three? Well, the thing is, subject three is compartido. It's here. They both needed. Ellos ambos necesitaban, ellos ambos estudiaban. So, tenemos sobreentendido, they both needed. Están compartiendo el sujeto. They both needed. So, how many subjects does this have? It has 3 subjects, class. It has 3 verbs, 3 subjects, 3 verbs. Voila, we have a complex sentence. And you're going to need to write complex sentences in your essay. Not many, but at least 2 or 3 complex sentences. The majority of your sentences in your essays should be compound. Okay? So basically 3 parts. Let me see something. 1 second. Again, just checking because I want it to be exactly like the other class. Well, it's not going to be exactly. It's going to be a little better because I know mistakes I made in the other one. All right, let me change that. We did that. Okie doke. Hasta ahora, ¿alguna pregunta? ¿Comentario? ¿Reclamo? ¿Confesión? ¿Sugerencia? ¿Opinión? ¿Confirmación de que siguen con vida? Confirmación. Ahí está. Very good. Very good, porque no los puedo ver. Okay, class. So there we go. So this, what was this? Well, this had to do with the criteria that you're going to be used to be graded, which is level of vocabulary, use of structure. Okay, maybe I should write that actually. I didn't write it in the other class, but yes. Criteria for grading. Okay, this is the criteria for grading. Level of vocabulary, use of structures, right, etc. Let's continue. ¡Tarán! No, eso no quería. Vamos por acá. Estamos okie doke. Next. Oops, let me see something. 1 second. I think I made a mistake in one thing. So here we put 1, 2. All right, 1, 2. No, sí estaba bien. 1, 2. Ya ahí metí la pata. All right. We continue with the grading thing. 3. I'm also going to be seeing the use of cohesive devices. Cohesive devices. And I want to check something. Give me a second, class. Cohesive devices, just to make sure I have my terminology down. Terrible. All right. Cohesive devices. And what I meant by that, yes, I was correct. I thought that maybe I was wrong, but I still remember. Todavía no he perdido mi memoria, estoy contento por eso. A ver. So under cohesive devices, we have the following. We have linking words, right? Words that join ideas within a paragraph. We have connectors, right? We have connectors. We have qué feo que se ve eso. 1 second, let me quitar esto. No sé por qué pasa eso. All right. We have conjunctions, which are a certain form. No son completamente cohesive devices, pero sí de cierto modo. And we have transitional words. And you can look all this up. You can look all this up on internet, right? But what is basically a cohesive device? Well, a cohesive device, let me put the ink for blue. A cohesive device can be, for example, para conectar la idea que estaba puesta en la oración anterior, ¿verdad? Es decir, por ejemplo, todos los hombres son malos para hacer las cosas en la casa. Por ejemplo, lavar los platos, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, for example, that connects, it gives an example. It connects the one sentence with the other sentence, right? So that, for example, is a cohesive device. Another one is in conclusion. That's for a final. In conclusion, para concluir, en conclusión, in conclusion. Eso puede ser para empezar el final de una oración o para terminar todo un párrafo, todo un ensayo. In conclusion. Para llevar contraste. Sin embargo. Ay, ¿por qué hace eso? Oh, ¿por qué hizo eso? However, sin embargo, moreover, además, all right? So that is some of the words. Now remember that conjunctions are also included. And in conjunctions, let me put the example here. In conjunctions, we have and, we have but, we have because, and we have or. Right, so you can say the Christmas tree is natural, but it is very expensive. All right, so that's some of the conjunctions. All right, you can also say words like to show similarity, class. To show similarity, you can say as a linking word, for example, you can say similarly. All right, that's one thing that you can use as a linking word. What else you could use? Equally. And I don't remember anymore. I remember when I'm writing. Okay, connectors. Woo! First, right? You're connecting a sequence. First. Second, right? Or in the first place. In the second, in second place, all right? And let me see. And the last one, transitional words are as a result. Que ya está, por ahí como que lo tenía. As a result. Okay. Gosh, ¿qué dice? As a result. No me viene a la mente tanto. As a result. Finally. Etc. Pueden buscar en internet. Ahí lo van a encontrar. Más fácil. Sorry, class. Mi gato estaba peleando. Hay que ponerle aplicarle la ley de fuga. All right. So let me see. I think that has to do with cohesive devices. And why is this so important? Because it gives cohesion to your whole work, class. All right, le da cohesión, le hace que las ideas fluyan. Ustedes ayudan a fluir, a que fluyan esas ideas. Y finalmente, esto es un ejemplo de coherencia. Si tiene estas palabras, ¿cuántas palabras de esta debe tener un ensayo? Mínimo 4. Mínimo 4. Número ideal, 8. Si han usado 8, han cumplido con el uso de cohesive devices y su ensayo debería tener un alto grado de coherencia. Right? Justo, dale con esto que sigo. No sé qué es lo que hago, pero sigo dañando esto. All right. So that's all I have to say about that. What else? What else do we have to, what else are you going to be measured? Well, let's go. Let's take the green again. Four. The mechanics. Y no son mecánicos. The mechanics of the essay. The mechanics of the essay. Let me just check something also. Estoy solo comprobando, verificando que hay puesto todo igual en el anterior. And in this one, I think, me acuerdo que me olvidé de algo. Y quiero estar seguro. Sí lo incluí. Sí incluí spelling antes que lo incluí. Right. So, what do we mean? What do we mean by the mechanics of the essay? Well, very simple, class. By mechanics of the essay, first, we are talking about the punctuation. All right. What is the punctuation? Use of the period, commas, question marks, o signos de interrogación, question mark, etc. Todo lo que tiene que ver con esta nomenclatura. Punto, punto seguido, dos puntos, punto y coma. Okay, that's punctuation. So you have to write that. You have to follow the rules, the conventions of this. All right. The next thing is, let me put the green here. Capitalization, class. Capitalization. So let's write that. Capitalization. Letra mayúsculas. The capitalization. Are you capitalizing correct? We'll take a look at what we mean by capitalization. Okay. 1 second. The next thing, aspect of this is the spelling. Right? Spelling. What is the are you spelling the word correctly? All right. Okay, let's take a look at an example. Let me again use the same example that I used Dios mío, the last time. That wasn't it. Ese tampoco era. Mira que se desapareció. No, aquí está. Okay, here we go. Let's look at an example. Let me put this in blue. 1 second. Okay. Very short sentence. Next week, I'll call Adriana. All right. But there's a lot here, class. There's a lot. All right. So first thing, capitalization. First rule, the first words, the first letter of the first word of a sentence must always be capitalized. Always. Okay, what else should be capitalized? In English, the I of yo is always capitalized. And what else? Proper nouns, sustantivos propios. Adriana es un nombre. Adriana, New York, Guayaquil, they should all be capitalized. Eso se ve feo. Un ratito. Yeah. Okay. Adriana, I, etc. Right? Names of the day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday should be capitalized. Months, January, February, March should be capitalized. All the cities, all the countries in the world should be capitalized with the first letter. So those are capitalization rules that you must remember. All right, hold on. Okie doke. All right, sorry. Presioné de accidente. What else? Punctuation. All right, let's take a look at the punctuation here. Well, let me change the color. All sentences in English and in a period. All time phrases are followed by commas. So right here, oops, right here, we can see that the punctuation rules are being followed. Punctuation rules are being followed. Another punctuation que nos estamos olvidando es este de aquí, que también cae bajo esa categoría. Punctuation. Okay, so please be careful with that. Okay, let's draw the line here. There it goes. Okay, that looks better. So that's punctuation. And spelling, well,